space was quiet over Europa Station. The mining hub floated against the black canvas of Jupiter's shadow, its silver frame glinting under the planet's reflected light. It had been a month of strange transmissions, alien signals on a loop, growing louder, clearer, until even the station's civilian comms picked them up. Commander Jack Rains stood on the station's observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the pulsing blue icon on the holodeck. He was a tall man, mid-40s, his uniform pressed but collar slightly undone, a man who hadn't slept properly in days. "They repeated it again, sir," said Lieutenant Sarah Hensley, her voice taut with unease. "Same phrase. Same tone. Translation software says it's a request for surrender, but the tone reads like an ultimatum." Jack didn't move. "And the Council's response?" "They've called for de-escalation. They want us to send a shuttle to Parley." Jack exhaled slowly through his nose. Earth's United Terran Council had always believed in diplomacy first. But diplomacy only worked if the other side respected strength, and everything Jack had seen from these transmissions told him this wasn't a negotiation. It was a warning. "Run the scan again," he said. The lieutenant nodded and keyed the console. The display filled with a starfield overlay, red dots blooming across the outer system. Each dot marked an incoming contact. There weren't a dozen. There weren't 100. There were thousands. Jack's jaw tightened. "They're not sending an envoy," he muttered. "They're staging a full-scale occupation." Sarah hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Sir, should we alert High Command?" Jack turned to face her, his expression hard. "By the time Command authorizes a response, those ships will be in Mars orbit. If they wanted peace, they'd have sent a single vessel, not a fleet." The deck hummed under their feet as distant drives engaged, miners and civilians fleeing in transports, obeying the early evacuation order Jack had authorized without permission. He'd take the heat later, if there was a later. He looked back out at the dark horizon of Jupiter, as if the gas giant itself might whisper counsel. "Patch me through to Admiral Vega on Luna." "Secure line." Moments later, the holodeck shimmered, and the Admiral's stern face appeared. Carlos Vega was a broad-shouldered man with graying temples and the kind of steady, cold stare that could level a junior officer. "Commander," Vega said. "I hear you've been jumping the chain of command." "With respect, sir," Jack said, his voice sharp but controlled, "we don't have time for bureaucracy. They're coming in force. I've seen the telemetry. This isn't a demand, it's an invasion." Vega was silent for a long moment, the only sound the faint crackle of the encrypted channel. "I've been reading your reports," he said finally. "You think this is the real thing?" Jack didn't hesitate. "Yes, sir." Vega's eyes narrowed. "Then you understand what I'm about to authorize." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "You're considering the Leviathan Protocol," Vega said flatly. Sarah's head snapped toward Jack, her face pale. The Leviathan Protocol wasn't a myth, though most civilians thought it was a last resort failsafe, whispered about in dark corners of military academies. "Sir," Jack said carefully, "that would mean deploying." "Yes," Vega said. "We send the engine." Sarah swallowed hard. "Admiral, with respect, the protocol was designed for planetary defense, not a first strike." Vega's gaze was like stone. "This is defense. They've crossed the line. Earth will not kneel." The holodeck went dark as the Admiral cut the feed. For a moment, the command deck was silent, save for the soft hiss of recycled air. Sarah turned to Jack, her voice barely a whisper. "He's really going to do it?" Jack stared at the fading hologram, his face unreadable. "No," he said. "We are." The next 36 hours were a blur. Deep beneath Europa Station, sealed hangars hissed open for the first time in decades. Automated cranes moved with mechanical precision, uncovering a weapon the size of a frigate but far more deadly. The Ares engine. It didn't look like much. Just a black, wedge-shaped craft with a surface that seemed to drink in the light. No windows. No markings. Its hull was lined with gravitic emitters and magnetic rails that made even veteran engineers uneasy. Jack stood on the gantry as crews in hazard suits prepped the launch systems. "I thought this thing was mothballed," Sarah said, watching the machine awaken like a sleeping beast. "It was," Jack said grimly. "After Titan. The council swore we'd never need it again. Then why keep it at all?" Jack's gaze stayed on the dark shape below. "Because someone always comes, Lieutenant. Someone always thinks Earth is weak." The gantry vibrated as the Ares engine's core came online. A low hum rolled through the hangar, so deep it felt like it shook the bones. "Power levels stable," called an engineer over comms. "Systems green across the board." Jack turned to Sarah. "Prep the flight crew. We launch at 0400. Hours later, Jack stood in the cockpit. The Ares engine didn't have a traditional control deck, just a neural interface cradle, a circle of consoles, and a single reinforced viewport at the bow. He slid into the cradle, feeling the connection latch to the back of his neck. The machine came alive around him. He didn't just see the data, he felt it. Every coil, every capacitor, every weapon system. "Commander," Sarah said over comms, her voice tight. "Enemy fleet just crossed Saturn's orbit. ETA to Mars, 19 hours. Jack flexed his hands on the armrests. "Not if we meet them first." With a rising roar, the Ares engine tore free of Europa Station's hangar. The stars stretched into long white lines as the ship jumped to full burn. Somewhere in the dark between planets, an alien fleet expected a shuttle, a token gesture of surrender. What they were about to face was something else entirely. The Ares engine cut through the void like a spear of night, its black hull scattering no light, no signature, only a faint ripple where its gravitic drive bent space around it. Jack Rains felt every vibration, every shift in power distribution, as though the ship was an extension of his body. He wasn't just piloting it. He was inside it. The neural link flooded him with targeting data, trajectory solutions, weapon readiness. Telemetry coming in, Sarah Hensley's voice crackled through the calm. She was back on Europa Station, now functioning as mission control. "You'll have visual in 90 seconds. Jack closed his eyes, steadying his breath. He had seen combat before, skirmishes on the belt, pirate raids on Mars, but never anything like this. The Ares engine wasn't a warship. It was a deterrent. A warning to the galaxy that Earth would never again be subjugated. And tonight, that warning would be broadcast in fire. The stars ahead shifted, and then he saw them. The alien fleet. Thousands of ships, hanging in perfect formation like a swarm of metallic wasps. They weren't sleek like Terran designs, they were angular, jagged, with strange dorsal spines that glowed faint green. The biggest ships were massive, kilometers long, bristling with weapon ports and shield projectors. And in the center of the formation hung something even larger, a command carrier, its silhouette like a floating fortress, the color of deep iron. Jack felt the Ares engine's targeting matrix lock onto it instantly, like a predator scenting blood. "They see you," Sarah reported. "Multiple scans locking on your position." "Good," Jack said. Across the void, the alien fleet began to shift. Columns of ships peeled away from formation and accelerated toward him. They thought they were intercepting a single Terran shuttle, a delegation, maybe even a token defense craft. They had no idea what they were closing in on. Jack's neural interface flared as the first wave moved into weapons range. The Ares engine's systems whispered solutions into his mind, firing arcs, predicted evasive maneuvers, kill percentages. "Sarah," he said calmly. "Arm primary rail batteries. Target the lead cruiser." "Acknowledged," she replied. "Weapons hot." Jack's hand twitched. The space ahead of him lit up with a single, brilliant flash. A tungsten slug, traveling at a fraction of lightspeed, crossed the void in an instant and tore straight through the alien cruiser's bow. The ship didn't explode. It simply came apart, hull plating blooming like flower petals, atmosphere venting in white jets as its spine snapped in half. "Direct hit," Sarah breathed. Jack didn't respond. The neural link was already giving him the next firing solution. Another flash. Another alien ship gutted. Then another. Within seconds, 3 cruisers were gone. The swarm wavered. But then the fleet reacted. The stars lit up as alien return fire blazed toward him, emerald beams, plasma bolts, kinetic swarms. The Ares engine's hull shimmered with gravitic shielding, space itself bending around the projectiles. Some deflected harmlessly. Others bent back toward their origin points, ripping through alien escorts in a deadly boomerang of their own making. Jack gritted his teeth. The neural link was hot now, his pulse syncing with the ship's reactor output. He could feel the weapons bay doors opening, the secondary payloads charging. Jack, Sarah's voice came, tight. They're broadcasting. I'm patching it through. The alien transmission hit his ears like broken glass. But the translator filtered it, rendering it into clipped, metallic speech. Terran vessel. Power down. Submit for boarding. Surrender is mercy. Resist and your species will be purged. Jack's jaw tightened. He switched to outbound comms. This is Commander Jack Rains of the United Terran Fleet, he said, his voice cold as space. Your terms are rejected. Your invasion ends here. He cut the channel. Sarah, he said quietly. Arm the Nova Lance. Her reply was immediate. Are you sure? Once you fire. They won't stop unless we make them afraid, Jack said. Do it. The Ares engine's belly panel slid open, revealing the Nova Lance emitter, a weapon banned by nearly every interstellar treaty, a weapon designed not to destroy a ship, but to erase it. Target lock acquired. The neural interface vibrated. Jack's vision tunneled. He fired. For a heartbeat, the stars went white. The beam punched through the alien command carrier like a hot needle through paper, its shields collapsing in a cascade of failed harmonics. Then the ship vanished, not in an explosion, but in a silent, glowing implosion, folding in on itself until nothing was left but a sphere of expanding plasma. The alien fleet shuddered. Literally. Their formation broke as smaller ships scattered, trying to evade. Whatever confidence they'd had evaporated in seconds. Jack didn't let up. He swung the Ares engine into a dive, railguns and pulse cannons firing in perfect synchronicity. One by one, alien ships winked out, some exploding, others ripped apart by space distortion fields. Status? Jack demanded. Half the fleet is in retreat. Sarah reported, awe creeping into her tone. They're breaking formation, we've never seen them run like this. Jack stared out the viewport, his knuckles white. Then we finish this. The battle stretched for what felt like hours, but in reality, it lasted minutes. By the time the firing stopped, wreckage drifted in every direction, shattered alien hulls tumbling end over end, leaking gas and twisted metal. The survivors had gone to silent burn, fleeing the system at maximum speed. Jack disengaged from the neural cradle, staggering slightly as he returned fully to his own body. Sweat dripped from his temples. His pulse still thundered in his ears. Commander, Sarah said softly over comms. Europa just picked up the retreat signal. You did it. They're gone. Jack sank back into the command chair, staring at the field of debris. No, he said quietly. They'll be back. Just not today. Hours later, as the Ares engine limped back toward Europa Station, the first encrypted transmission from Earth High Command came through. Commander Rains, the voice of Admiral Vega boomed, you have exceeded your operational authority. Jack sat in silence. Then Vega's tone softened. But you have also saved this system. Return to Earth for debrief. The Council will want answers. And the galaxy will want to know what exactly we unleashed tonight. Jack looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the alien fleet were running, carrying with them a story they would tell in fear for generations. They had expected a shuttle, a symbol of Earth's submission. Instead, they had seen what happened when humanity refused to kneel. Earth's capital, Geneva Arcology, shimmered under morning light, its towers piercing the clouds like silver needles. Inside the United Terran Council's primary chamber, the mood was electric, tense, brittle, ready to snap. Commander Jack Rains stood in the center of the council floor, flanked by 2 honor guards. His uniform was still scorched from the battle, his posture rigid but defiant. "This council convenes to address Commander Rains' unauthorized deployment of the Ares engine," the chairwoman declared. Her voice carried through the chamber with the weight of ceremony, but her eyes were sharp. Jack met her gaze. "With respect, Madam Chair, there wasn't time to wait for a committee vote. The enemy fleet would have been over Mars by now. You used a weapon banned by every interstellar treaty we've signed," she said. "Do you realize the political fallout this will cause?" Jack's jaw flexed. "Do you realize what would have happened if I hadn't?" A murmur rippled through the chamber. Even the counselors who had come prepared to condemn him shifted uneasily. Admiral Vega rose from his seat. "Madam Chair, if I may," he said. The chairwoman gestured. "Speak, Admiral." "Rains is right," Vega said bluntly. "I authorized his actions. The Leviathan Protocol exists for one reason: to ensure humanity is never caught unprepared. Tonight, it worked." The chairwoman's eyes narrowed. "And what of the message we've now sent the galaxy? That we are warmongers? That we'll use annihilation weapons at the first sign of conflict?" Jack's voice cut through the chamber, cold and unyielding. "No," he said. "The message we sent is that we won't die quietly. That if anyone tries to put humanity in chains, we'll break those chains and burn the forge that made them." The room went silent. Hours later, as the council deliberated, Jack stood alone on a balcony overlooking Geneva's artificial lake. The city was quiet, but the news feeds weren't. Every channel was ablaze with images of the battle. The Ares engine silhouette had already become a symbol, memes and protest banners calling it Earth's shadow and the machine that made them run. Sarah Hensley found him there, dressed in civilian clothes, her hair tied back. "They're saying you might be stripped of command," she said softly. Jack shrugged. "Wouldn't be the first time Earth punished someone for saving it." Sarah stepped closer. "And yet, they're still alive because of you." Jack didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where a thin streak of light marked a launch climbing toward orbit. Refugees returning home now that the skies were clear. "I got the latest intel," Sarah said quietly. "The alien fleet that retreated? They sent a subspace burst before they jumped. We intercepted fragments." Jack finally turned to look at her. "And?" She hesitated. "They're calling for reinforcements. Not just a fleet. An armada. Thousands more ships. This wasn't their invasion force, Jack. It was just their advance guard." The words sank like lead. 3 weeks later, the sky above Earth was no longer empty. 1,000 Terran warships hung in low orbit, a hastily assembled defense grid stretching from the Moon to Mars. Orbital yards ran day and night, spitting out new hulls. Civilian transports carried weapons and rations instead of tourists. And at the center of it all, in a hangar hidden beneath the Pacific, the Ares engine waited. Jack ran his hand along its hull, the matte black surface cool under his palm. "She's ready," said Chief Engineer Luis Ortega, stepping up beside him. "We rebuilt the drive coils, swapped the lance emitter for a newer model. She's meaner now." Jack nodded. "She'll have to be." "Think they'll come all at once?" Ortega asked. Jack's gaze was distant. "Oh, they'll come. They can't afford not to. They lost face. If they don't crush us, they'll look weak to every other species out there." Sarah's voice crackled over comms. "Jack, you might want to see this." He turned. "Put it on the screen." The hangar wall shimmered, displaying a tactical map of the outer system. The alien armada had arrived. It was bigger than anything Jack had ever imagined, a wall of ships stretching across millions of kilometers, blotting out whole sectors of the starfield. "This is it," Sarah said over the channel. "They're not here to parley. They're here to erase us." Jack stared at the map. Fear stirred in his chest, but something else rose with it, a hard, burning resolve. "No more warnings," he said. Launch the Ares engine. The sky above Saturn became a graveyard. The Ares engine struck like a god of war, its rail batteries ripping through enemy carriers, its gravitic fields turning torpedoes into shrapnel. The Nova Lance fired again and again, carving holes in the fleet so wide entire squadrons vanished into nothing. But the aliens didn't break this time. They pressed forward, relentless, pouring ships into the fight until the void burned green with their weapon fire. Terran destroyers fell. Frigates cracked open and went dark. Jack felt every loss like a knife in his gut. The neural link pulsed hot with damage warnings. The Ares engine's shields were failing, its reactors running past safe limits. Jack! Sarah's voice shouted through the din. You have to pull back. If you lose the engine. No, Jack said through clenched teeth. If they get past US, Earth burns. We end this here. He drove the Ares engine straight into the heart of the alien formation. Enemy fire slammed into the hull, ripping armor away in glowing chunks. Jack armed the last of the ship's payload, a singularity charge, never before tested in battle. Warning, the AI whispered in his mind. Detonation will destroy all mass within 2,000 kilometers. Escape probability, less than 2%. Jack smiled grimly. Good. He broadcast on every open frequency, his voice carrying across the battlefield. You wanted humanity's surrender, he said. Here's our answer. He triggered the charge. For a moment, the universe held its breath. Then the stars collapsed inward. The singularity bloomed, a perfect black sphere that swallowed light, matter, and ships alike. Alien cruisers twisted apart like paper, dreadnoughts vanishing into its event horizon before their guns could fire a last shot. And then, just as quickly, the singularity imploded, leaving only silence. When the Ares engine reappeared days later, drifting near Neptune on emergency power, the war was over. The alien armada was gone. What remained of their empire sent no more messages, no more ultimatums. They had seen what Earth was willing to do, and they chose to retreat into their own territory. Jack Rains stood once more on Geneva's balcony, this time with Sarah beside him. The city was quiet again, the lake still. You think they'll ever come back? She asked. Jack didn't answer for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Not soon, he said. And if they do, they won't expect a shuttle. Humanity had not just survived. It had announced itself to the galaxy. And the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again.